Nothing's worse than having to feel so isolated. That's right, I'm talking about you, the caregiver. I'm talking about when people approach you and they ask, hey, how's your loved one? But they never inquire about you because they feel like you have it all together. In the meantime, your validation, your belonging feels like it's diminished to nothing. That's what this subject's all about. About you, the caregiver. On Chatting It Up with CJ. Hey there, how's it going? I'm so glad that you decided to stop in and join me here at Chatting It Up. And I have a question for you. As a caregiver, do you feel invisible sometimes? Maybe not heard, or maybe something that seems kind of childish, but it's a very, very prominent fact. Feel left out? It's totally normal. I know it sounds like you're being selfish or in your own pity party, but it's a very, very real, valid feeling. I want you to know that I finally sat down and I did the audiobook of Unexpected Journey by Emma Heming Willis. And I was surprised, even though not all the points were relatable to me, like how to deal as a caregiver to a dementia patient that has FTD, which is frontotemporal dementia. I didn't deal with that, but I also didn't have children that I had to deal with to balance things out. Her book has so many details in it. And even with these details, I had to tell myself, listen to what she's saying, because the way she expresses how she felt in the beginning and how she expresses how she felt during the process in the beginning time of her realizing what she was up against was very familiar to me. And it may be familiar to you. If you haven't picked up the book yet, if you haven't heard much about it, at the time that her book got released, the whole Charlie Kirk thing was happening. And as terrible as it was, I'm not saying it changed a lot of people's lives. But there is a sense of normalcy that you have to get back to. And I decided to pick up the book, listen to it. And I really felt validated by her sharing her experiences. She got a lot of blowback and a lot of criticism. If you recall it's almost a month now that it's been out. People were saying, you're privileged. You have the money to get caregiving services. You have this, you have that. You don't know what it's like. You put them in a home. You didn't. Hey, you know what? I'm going to be the last person to be critical of another person's journey in caregiving. Just like I don't expect others to be equally critical of my journey. I'm not here to say mine's worse than the next person or mine's, less than. But I'll be very frank with you. Mine was not as bad as some people that deal with some crazy, crazy stuff. It's kind of sounds bad, but my mom had mild cognitive, in my opinion. According to her doctors, she had dementia, but I never did find out the stage that she was in. And I was still able to converse with her. I did find it easy to converse with her in the native language of Dutch. And maybe that's why I didn't notice a lot. When we did speak English to each other, I would get crazy questions like, whose house is this? She didn't remember her grandchildren sometimes. There's only 3. and it was hard for her to place. I would have to help her, and then she would say, "Oh yeah, 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 I remember." But the shocking thing is, what year is it? Whose house is this? And she made reference a lot to the house in Westminster, which is where I grew up. That was my childhood home. And sometimes she would ask um, about my sister and say, you know, what is she doing? Where is she? And does she have any children? That was shocking for me because they were the apple of her eye. And that was hard to receive that type of information. Um, but when Emma talks about Bruce and going to the doctor, being diagnosed with FTD, and them saying, we'll see in a few months to see how he's doing, and handed a pamphlet, that is not the first time I've heard that from people. And it's the reason why Dr. Natali Edmonds started up Dementia Careblazers, because she spent 13 years in the hospital dealing with families that were dealing with elder situations and not necessarily dementia, but issues that would attack the elderly. And she realized that there was a gap, a void. Something was missing when it came to caregiving and dementia in particular, because not a lot of people knew about dementia in the system of the hospital. It wasn't like prevalent as all the other elderly aging afflictions. And so she saw a need and she filled it. And it's doing amazingly. It's Dementia Careblazers. And Emma Willis talks a lot about her first emotions of what it was like. The beginning of her finding out about FTD. And she makes references to that would be related. Caregiver is that's how I considered myself, but a care partner for a spouse, for a married couple. It does change the paradigm. It changes the thought process a little bit more. But she talks about how she felt lost. And not only that, she said she tried everything. Like when she figured out and did her own research and her own study, that she threw everything, including the kitchen sink, at this, trying to stop or slow down the process, because every bit of research that she did have always led to the same conclusion. There's no cure for it. And it is not openly said, but it's terminal. The ending is always the same. The question is, how fast is this going to happen? And so she tried everything to do everything. But she said, the emotion and the feeling that you have when you're realizing what you're dealing with is almost like, well, even I know this. There's not one caregiver that steps into this position, this role, knowing what they're going to do. But everyone that I've known, and which is the reason why she entitled her book Unexpected Journey, is because you become a sudden caregiver. You become a sudden participant in something that's so unfamiliar, and there's not enough information out there, and you're literally winging it. The way she describes it in her book, It's almost as if you've been hired to do a job without any formal training, and it's a big job, and people rely on you to keep everything rolling along. And so you realize you're now in a place where human beings are relying on you, and you have to step up to the plate, keep things going, and keep things flowing. And if you, in her case, she had children, so she, not only did she have to take care of her spouse, figure out what is happening, but she also had to pay attention to her kids, who were at the age of 8 and 10 at the time. And she said the enormity, the pressure that was placed on her. She said there were times that she couldn't even breathe. And I was like, wow, I know that feeling. And she, the way she described it, it was just like, you're grabbing at straws. You're just grabbing at anything, trying to make it work, trying to hang on. And the importance of how you need to pay attention to yourself, but you're so busy trying to hold on and make it work that you don't even realize how you are being affected. And other people can see how it affects you. And unless they bring it to your attention and you pay attention to what they're saying, you'll never understand it. I'll never forget, at one point, I was doing something with my mom, and I thought, why do I feel so weird? I was totally unaware that I was not breathing. I was holding my breath. Because every once in a while I would sit there and I'd be doing something, and all of a sudden I'm like going. And that it was kind of like coming up for air when you're underwater. Like you could feel your lungs expand and you're like, you get relief because you have air in your lungs. And I realized, oh my gosh, how long have I been holding my breath? Well, the studies show, and I keep repeating this, and she says it over and over in her book as well. I say because I did the audiobook. 63%, according to her stats. I always thought it was 67, but it doesn't matter. It's in the 60s. 63 to 67% of caregivers suffer life-altering medical issues because their health is failing. And they have that great percentage of succumbing to their health issues for the very person they're caring for. And she said that was a wake-up call. She had been going to a therapist. Someone had advised her to go to a therapist, and there it was there that she could unload and just kind of let everything out. She said she was always a person that needed to be in control, that always had everything on the up and up. But this was so out of control that she didn't even know what to do with herself. And she certainly couldn't allow that type of behavior to be exposed to her children, because she didn't want her children to be concerned with, oh my gosh, my dad is sick. And now I'm watching my mom deteriorate. And she said she remembered that feeling, and I remembered this. This is something that I related to. She said, you know, when I was young, I forget how old she was, but she was, I think, 6 years old. She said, when everything was fine, we had a great place. My mom and dad were good. And then one day it all fell apart and my dad left. And next thing I know, my mom and I, as an only child, struggling to stay afloat. We were struggling to make ends meet. We had to move out of the only place that I knew as home. I had to restructure my life as a young person with my mom, who I adored, and watch her work 3 jobs just to make ends meet. The security that she had known in her early years was gone. She said the emotion and the feeling of knowing how things can suddenly change created a fear, a pattern of fear. And that pretty much most of her life, she's always been in fear of change because of that experience. And I thought about that. I don't talk about it much, but my life has changed completely from when I was taking care of my dad with Deborah. And then 2 months later, I had to move in to take care of my mom. I didn't even know that she was a dementia patient. I had no idea. But when I moved in to help her, that I thought for 2 weeks, I learned it was so much greater than that. It was that change that changed me. Losing my dad, taking care of my mom. And after so many years of taking care of my mom, her succumbing to her illness because she had kidney failure on top of it. I think that's pretty much what took her out. But my life changed so much and I changed so much that when I came home, my home life was destroyed. I came home to something unfamiliar. And so I understand what Emma was talking about, changes, and how that insecurity can affect you. And the pain that comes with that, because not only was her mom, her relationship compromised, but innocently, Emma as a child felt betrayed. And I can relate to that. That uncomfortable feeling of a lack of security and coming back to something unfamiliar and nothing like what it was before. And the feeling of betrayal so deep. And on top of that, losing both your parents changes a person. That alone changes a person. But to have all the other issues on top of it drastically changes a person. But the way Emma talks about that fear base, it made me think about my faith. As a person that believes in Jesus Christ, it's given my life over to Christ, I realized I needed to stand in my faith because fear doesn't live there. Perfect love from God casts out all fear. But you have to have that faith to stand in it. Mom died in June last year. And it's been quite a journey. And I won't get into that part. But I will say this. From that time frame to current, I've had to hold on to my faith. I've had to reach out and grab God's hand and ask Jesus, hold me. Help me stand. Because I'm in unfamiliar territory. I'm without my parents. I won't get into that part. It changes you. the whole experience of caregiving changes you. You find yourself doing things that you never ever considered doing. You never thought you would have to do, but you do it. Again, it's like all of a sudden you feel the enormity and the pressure of what you need to do to take care of your loved one. And it's even worse when you don't get along with the person. You see, my mom and I never got along for a majority of my life. And here I was the one that was taking care of her. I will say, I'm not an only child. I have a sibling. But it felt like I was an only child because she and her family lived outside of California, overseas. And yes, she would come and help out whenever she was able to. But to experience the nuts and bolts and all the fragments of being a caregiver, she never experienced. It was like a long visit, a nice social event for her with my mom. And my mom enjoyed it. But my mom also saw what I would go through, the enormous guilt that my mom would feel of being a burden to me and me having to reassure her that you're not a burden. But then walking away and going to my temporary bedroom and just having a conniption of why is my life interrupted? Why do I have to go through this? And literally having an emotional tantrum, if you will. And every caregiver that I've ever spoken to has had this and has shamefully admitted that they have gone through this before. And it's okay. It's okay. It's a normal feeling. And I think that's the part that people forget as a caregiver. Oh, no, no, I shouldn't feel this way. And they feel terrible about it. I felt terrible about it. But you're so overwhelmed and overtired and over it. You're just spent. And you find yourself when you're in this predicament being triggered by outsiders who mean well, that have all kinds of comments and suggestions as if you didn't think about it already. And it's because they don't verbalize it in a way that isn't condescending or offensive to you. And you may say, well, that's a bit oversensitive now, isn't Carolyn? It's no, you know what? When you've done every single thing that you could think of and every single thing that's been suggested, and someone comes in and goes, well, you should be doing this. Well, you need to do this. Well, you need to do. And I'm like, where have you been all this time? I've been doing that. And if you would have been here, you would have known that I was doing that. And so all it does is create friction and triggering moments. And it's all meant by the other person in good faith. They don't mean any harm. But just in the matter of how a person speaks to another caregiver who's in it every single minute of the day, who knows the loved one and what they go through, it makes. She talks a lot about the only way that you can gain your emotional stability. I know it sounds nuts because you feel like you're going nuts. But to find a support group like I found with Dementia Care Blazers, people there are going through the same thing that you are. And when they go through it, you go through it together, but you never have to explain yourself because they understand. You never feel judged upon. You never feel like an outsider or that someone doesn't understand you. You are yourself and they get you. She even says, and I totally 1000% agree. You go to these meetings to help clear off a little bit of the crap that's been spread on you so that you could be refreshed and come back to your loved one with the right mind. But you also meet other people and you might find your go-to person, someone that you relate to, someone that understands where you may be coming from, someone that you don't even have to explain. They just understand. They become your caregiving BFF. You find these people in your support groups. I just want to encourage you. All we want to be is validated and seen and heard. I get it. Towards the end of my mom's life, I tried to meet up with my sister and say, I want to apologize to you because I know I may have come off certain ways that weren't the greatest. But you have no idea what I was going through. And I just want to own up to my part of it. And I would hope that you understand where I'm coming from. But you know what? It never happened. Never happened. But I realized that what I was feeling and what I wanted to express, it took another caregiver to validate me, to say, I understand it. I mean, she brilliantly and so eloquently stated things that I was actually going, oh my gosh, that's me. I get it. You get me. I wasn't nuts. I wasn't crazy. And I thank her for writing the book. This is not an endorsement of her book. I just want you to know, as a caregiver, 9 times out of 10, the people that are watching this are probably caregiving themselves. That's a resource that could help you and validate you. Because that's all we ever want, is to be seen, heard, and loved. And I just want to tell you, be blessed. You're chosen for such a time as this. And always be good to yourself, because you're worth it. Take care, and thank you for watching this. I'll see you in the next video. Hey, thanks for watching. And please remember to hit the subscribe button. We are trying to grow our channel and reach 1,000 subscribers. Now, for every new subscriber, these 2 nutheads right here, they're going to get a treat, so we will all be happy. Thanks for watching.